Hey, welcome to the Relentless Positivity Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Martin. Got a very interesting guest with us today. So his name is Phil Barth. And like many journeys all of us go through, his started with a heart attack. So since he's a speaker, he's an author, he's a dad, he's a Cleveland sports fan, which may have something to do with the heart attack, but we'll find out about that later. But Phil, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. So just take us back. So it's August 2015. Kind of take us through, why was that heart attack such a big change in your life? Obviously, it's a big medical deal, but what else happened?
Right. So I was at summer camp, Boy Scout summer camp with my youngest son. And I noticed, we go there every year. And I noticed this year the hills were higher and I was getting out of breath. And I knew something was not right. But I didn't really want to deal with it because the next week I was supposed to be in Las Vegas for a speaking opportunity. The week after that was a meeting for work on Myrtle Beach, and so I was like, eventually I'll get around to it. You know how we're guys, right? We
Sure.
get around to it eventually. Well, come Thursday, we played this game. I'm not making it up. It's called Hungry Human Hippos. So have you ever seen the game Hungry Hippos?
Yeah.
Where the little hippos are getting all the marbles? Well, what you do is you take a big room, you replace the marbles with softballs, and you replace the hippos with humans. So I was on my belly on these wheels, guy swinging me around, and I'm taking him in on the crate. And I got done. I was like, I do not feel right. Something is wrong here. And so I went to the nurse, and she took my blood pressure, and it had tanked, which is a sign of a heart attack. So after a call to my wife, and she said, yeah, you've got a problem here. And she talked to the nurse, and the nurse said, look, we need to call 911. So I went to the hospital, and all the tests were coming back fine. But then they do this blood test that says, if this chemical is in your blood anywhere, you have had a heart attack. And it was there. It was there in low levels. So they said you had a small heart attack. Wow. And I knew how bad I felt. I was like, I don't ever want medium, So what they did after 2 stents, after all of that, the doctor pulled me aside. He said, you need to manage stress. And I was like, that struck me as a little funny. I wasn't too far. I wasn't really massively overweight. I could lose 20 pounds, and I was in decent shape, and I didn't smoke. So it surprised me. He picked stress, which he was right.
Right.
I was stressing about everything. So that started the journey of, gratitude practice, managing my stress, finding out what's good in life. It's just a general evolution that has carried me now for 7 years of just a better mental attitude. You can't live a stress-free existence. That's not possible. But lowering stress, stressing about the right things, and that's kind of what's led me to where I am today.
Yeah. Well, hey, I hate you had a heart attack, but what an awesome way to have a heart attack playing Hungry Humans. I mean, come on. I want to play that right now. That sounds like a good time. I don't want a heart attack.
I will tell you, they never played that game at summer camp again.
Oh no. You're a legend then. Everybody knows you. Oh, there's heart attack. Hungry heart attack guy. Yeah.
There's the guy that left in the ambulance.
Man, yeah, it's good to leave a legacy behind. So
yeah, I guess.
So that led you to come up with your 9 S's of stress management. You kind of mentioned a little bit of them, so let's go through those, help people out. Because I know, hey, the past few years, if you haven't been stressed out, there's probably something wrong with you. So you need some stress management tools.
There you go. And I have to. I mean, we all have to some extent. So I'm gonna kind of whip through them. We'll cover a few of them in detail as you like. I will send you the handout that has what the 9 are. And honestly, there's probably 30, but these are the 9 that work for me because I find more and more every day. It's like, there's a good idea. So the first thing is seek what's good in life, right? So when I started that journey in 2015, early 2016, after the physical recovery, what I did was I started a daily gratitude practice on Facebook. So great things that happened today or great things that happened yesterday when I do it in the morning. And it's just little things, right? But what happened was I did it just as part of an activity when we were going to the zoo and things like that. I had a week off work. And so I did that. And I thought, well, I wonder how long I can continue finding what's good in life. And the answer is it's been about close to 7 years.
Yeah.
So I, look for what's good in life. And what I say is when you seek it, you're going to see it. When you see it, you need to save it. So take pictures on your phone, positive, put it on Facebook, put it in a journal. And the more you seek it, the easier it is to find.
Right. Yeah.
And I have heard some people that say, find something you're grateful for and make it different every day. I don't do it that way. If I'm grateful for something 3 days in a row, that's fine. You just are priming your mind with your gratitude. Seek the good. Second one is subtract the bad. So, we're on social media, and it's just it can be just this cesspool of constant hate and you suck and you suck and you suck. Take that away. You can block people on right. Facebook or on social media, right? Wouldn't that be cool in real life? Somebody comes up and they're yelling and complaining, you just go block, and they go away and they don't even know they've been blocked. I mean, that'd be awesome. But so you subtract the bad. You cannot eliminate the bad. You can subtract the bad. And then I say, when you can't subtract anymore, you add, which ADD is acknowledge, don't dwell. Acknowledge what's bad, acknowledge what you can do about it, and then don't dwell on it and make it a huge thing. So subtract the bad. Third one is step out of your comfort zone. And I'm not talking about jumping out a perfectly good airplane, but you need to push yourself, right? And if people like to parachute, more power to them. I don't see me doing that, but some people really enjoy that, right? But for me, one of the stepping out of the comfort zones is I like to plan. And I like to plan and plan and plan. And sometimes stepping out of the comfort zone means you don't have all the answers and you just start moving on something.
Right. Yeah.
So whatever your comfort zone is, people like being comfortable. I mean, nobody goes into the mattress store and says, "Hey, give me a bed of nails," right? we like comfort, but you got to sometimes step out of that zone and really, really enjoy life. What's that? That's 3. Number 4 is share the love. Share it on social media, send somebody a thank you card, give somebody a call, just some way to share your positivity with others. 5, this is one of my favorites. Start the day off positively. So there was a study done out of Harvard, it goes back about 10 years, but they had 2 groups. The first group, they started their day with solution focused, not necessarily positive, but solution focused news for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. The other group, they started out with bad news. And it was probably they just turned on the news, right? And 3 minutes of that. 3 minutes at the start of the day. At the end of the day, they asked the 2 groups, did you have a good day or a bad day? The group that started with 3 minutes of bad news was 27% more likely to report having a bad day.
Wow.
So you've got to get off on the right foot. My way is, and this may work for some, but it's ABCD. So A is affirmations, B is read a book, something that connects you to some higher power, some higher thinking, whatever. Could be the Bible, could be another religious text. It could be Getting Things Done by David Allen, which I love. B is a book. If I don't do it early, I don't get it done. C is coffee, because I get 1 cup of coffee and 1 cup of caffeinated coffee. So you got to enjoy that. And D for me is dogs.
Yeah.
You can't, these dogs are, they wake up and they haven't seen you for 8 hours and they're like, you are the most wonderful person in the world. And they just make your day positive. Yeah. Now, I will tell you, for me, it also works DCBA in reverse, because dogs don't wait.
They do not. Right? Yeah. You see why I want to have this guy on now? Look at this. He's killing it. Let's keep it going, man. I'm enjoying this.
Next one, self-love. If you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to share the love with others. So you got to feel good about yourself. And there are a variety of ways to do that by just like that. Step back in time. And what I mean by this is listen to some music that takes you back. I lost my father in 2019. He had a long illness, lost him. But what I did as part of dealing with that was I listened to Waylon Jennings. And if you like Waylon Jennings, fine. That's good. It's not Waylon Jennings as much as it's the fact that my dad loved country music. I loved Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash from that genre. That's about it. But when I listen to Waylon Jennings, I'm not remembering my dad, on his deathbed. I'm remembering my dad in his 30s, and we're all going down to Disney World, and he's got Waylon Jennings playing in the car. So it puts me back in that, here's my strong, vibrant dad, and the 4 of us are all going down to Disney, going to have a great time. So you step back in time, and music is a great way to do that. Next one, very generic. Start something silly. We don't laugh enough. I watch sitcoms. I watch Hogan's Heroes, big throwback, but just some sort of silly something to make you laugh. There's enough news out there to make you want to cry. So start something silly. Tell dad jokes. I love a good
Oh
dad.
man, me and you are on the same page now, man. Now you're talking my language right there.
I love dad jokes. I just can't wait. And I've trained my kids. They're not even dads yet, but I've trained them. So it's good parenting advice there. And that's 8. The ninth is small things make a difference. So I ultimately I wrote a book. Great things happen every day, and the subtitle is Finding Joy with Friends, Family, and Banana Milkshakes. It, and that's something. And what I did was I went through all my posts on social media, and I kept seeing banana milkshakes, banana milkshakes, banana milkshakes. That's a little thing. You take a banana or a frozen banana, drop it in a blender, put a little frozen yogurt on top of it, put some milk on top of it, blend it up, and what'd that take? 5 minutes max? And then make one for my wife, one for my son. And so it's such it's a small thing, but it's like a moment with the family, and you're just enjoying it. So small things. 10th, the bonus one is I've just been reading more and more about this. Slow down.
Oh yeah.
We live in such a fast-paced world, and that kind of that covers a lot of them, right? But go out, take a walk, just unplug for 15 minutes if that's all you can do. But we're trying to get more and more and more things done. Just sometimes you got to slow down, step back, and enjoy nature if that's what you want. But that's them in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'll send you the PDF so you can share.
Yeah, I'll link that to show notes so we can get this. So they get some more in depth on those. So that's a great list, man. So the great thing about every one of those is you don't have to go buy something. Well, you might have to buy a banana or something like that. But other than that, it's just, it's a mindset thing, or you making choices of how you start your day, how you view things, that type of stuff. So I get a little bit of pushback on relentless positivity about, like I'm just like, oh, my house is on fire. Kids, go get the marshmallows. It's not that kind of positivity, It's just making a choice that when you look for it, you find it, right? Just like what you talked about. There's good things every day when you're looking for them. For 7 straight years, you found some. So,
Yeah,
thank you for backing me up on that, and also for the dad jokes. I too am an aficionado of
love it.
dad jokes.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I tell people it's not every day that's going to be a great day. You can find good things in every day, but
yeah,
there's going to be some days when it's an off day.
yeah,
But there's some days, no matter how hard you try to screw them up, they're going to be great. Some days you're going to have off days, and there's a whole lot in the middle where by being positive and doing these kind of things, you're going to put them on the winning side of the margin.
absolutely, yeah. And everyone who's positive does dad jokes. Just I've done an informal study. That's just
Yes.
informal. I haven't published yet, but I'm pretty sure it's true. So.
Oh, it is
Uh,
100%.
so let's get back to stress a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something stressful you went through. Your 15 minutes of fame on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So if you guys remember that show, you get on the hot seat and first of all, tell a story about how your son was worried about you going there because of that hot seat.
Okay. Yeah. So to get on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you have to pass an audition, and I needed to fail for about 2.5 years, I think, at auditions I failed in Chicago. I failed in Indianapolis. I failed online. And suddenly I did some research, right? So by the way, this was an obsession. I'm gonna admit to that right off the gate. Watched every single show, got to be there, but it paid. So what happened? I went online and I learned about the process. So here's the process. At least circa 20 years ago, this is the process. You go into a room and they give you a test. Well, the test is questions that have already been on the show. So kind of an open book test for me. So that was the easy part. Then the next part is they take the people who passed the test into another room and they give you number 2 pencil and an application to fill out. And so I just filled it out and kind of riffed through it and failed every time I talked to a producer. Well, what I learned was, and this makes such common sense afterwards, they weren't looking for somebody to be smart or brilliant or cute or whatever on that application in the interview. They were looking for somebody who could sit across from Meredith Vieira at the time and tell an interesting human story, because it's not all about the questions, right?
Right.
They want something that makes the audience go, "Aw," and something different. So, and the other thing I learned was you don't need to use a pencil to fill out their application. So I took a 4-color pen, a marker, a highlighter, and so on. And the guy sitting next to me in Cleveland, where I passed the audition, sees me pull out all these pens, and he looked over and he said something I'm not going to repeat on your podcast, but he was not thrilled. Buddy, you'll know next time. So anyway, the story was that I put in red ink with like circles around it so the producer would see it. Was my son was sitting on my lap. He was a little guy, 4 or 5 years old, watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with me. And of course, what they say is, welcome to the hot seat. Next contestant in the hot seat. You're in the hot seat. And he started getting this worried look on his face. I said, Kenny, what's wrong? He said, well, how hot do they make that hot seat, Daddy? Got that to the producer. Producer loved it. I was on the show. Meredith Vieira asked me about it. I told her it was pretty warm. Actually, the question she said was, so how are your buns doing right now? And I'm pretty sure I'm the only person in history that she asked in the hot seat about their buns. So got that going for me.
Another legend.
I've got hot buns. Dad joke.
Hey, dad jokes on the fly.
Yeah, and so then ultimately, I don't know. I don't think we said this yet. Ultimately, the obsession / audition earned me $32,000.
Yeah. So I had a question for you. So if you guys remember back in the day, you could phone a friend, and you chose your friend Tom. How did you choose your phone a friend, by the way?
So you get 5.
Okay.
So I tried to cover 5 subjects. Tom was in a room with a bunch of other people, none of whom knew Greek mythology. And I did not realize. Now you got to remember, this is 2002. I did not realize how many questions Google would answer, including the one I had. I had a friend who was on a computer. Had I went that direction, he probably would have gotten it. But and then I had 3 general knowledge type of friends that I didn't think any of them knew Greek mythology specifically.
So I know there's people out there thinking, oh, I would have nailed that. I know my Greek mythology. So I'm going to ask the audience a question, and then we'll give them the answer. So I got the question right here. So I'm sure you remember this one. So the word mentor comes from mentor, a trusted advisor to what hero of Greek mythology? A, Oedipus, B, Hercules, C, Odysseus, D, Achilles. So audience, think about what you would have answered. I'll give you about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer was, do you remember?
Oh, yeah. Odysseus.
Yes, Odysseus.
So here's the backstory really quickly, because it's a lesson in the importance of mentors. When I was in high school, my high school history teacher was also our high school quiz team advisor. So we would go compete. And every time we went to compete, he kept telling me, you need to learn Greek mythology. He's like, this team is really good. We just don't have anybody covering Greek mythology. I never did.
Oh,
and not only that same teacher was one of my 5 choices for my life.
No.
And I was like, and he would say, you need to learn it. I don't know it, but I don't need to. You do. So that was instant, like, nope, not calling him. And I had to call him that night to let him know how it went. And he said, you're lucky you didn't call me, because I would have just sat there laughing at you for 30 seconds.
That'd been great TV, though.
Right. The backstory of that is like, how can I didn't learn it. Didn't even make any friends who knew it.
Well, who knew you would need it in your adult life, right? You get out of school, you're like, I don't need all that stuff. But
exactly.
Turned out you might.
And, I'm sitting backstage afterwards going, doggone it, I messed it up. I had 2 lifelines. And I'm beating myself up, right? And they bring my wife back, and she goes, we just got $32,000. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's really positive, isn't it?
That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I spent years working, not making that much. So that's not bad, right? So
yeah.
All right, let's switch it up. So you got a new book coming out. I'm really excited about this new book. Tell us the title and a little bit of how the backstory of that came about.
Okay, so I got another book out, and it's Hard to Believe Land. You're talking about the Cleveland sports book, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that one. Yeah,
I'm working on another one, which is day by day in Cleveland sports history. It's just going to be pick a day and here's a fact.
Oh, cool.
And so how both of them came out. Well, number one, I'm a lifelong Cleveland sports fan. I've got a hockey jersey on today, but you can see back there, there's a towel.
Oh, yeah.
What they stand for the land. That was from the divisional playoffs this year. Got to go up there with my son. Such a good time. All right. So, yeah, this is the balance to positivity, right? Cleveland sports.
Yeah.
But we were talking, and it goes back, I don't know, 10 years or so. A buddy of mine, I live in Cincinnati area. So there was three of us talking. Two of us were from Cleveland, and one was from Cincinnati and not a sports fan. And so we're just, oh, this is Cleveland sports, boo-hoo, right? And so the guy from Cincinnati goes, it can't be that bad. And I said, you don't understand. I'll bet you I could find a Cleveland sports tragedy for every day of the year. I found 200 before I had to start Googling.
Wow.
From my brain, right? Now, not all of them were tragedies. And so I put out an email on this day in Cleveland sports history. And sometimes they were good, mostly they were not. And I'm not going to get into well, you might ask me later, but there are all kinds of tragedies and some highlights, right? That's probably normal for every sports team, although Cleveland has it worse. What I did was I put them together and then took kind of pulled out the top stories growing up for being a Cleveland Indians at the time, now Guardians, Cleveland Indians, Browns, and Cavaliers fan. And then those were the backstories. And then the main story is what happened in the 2016 season for each of those franchises. So I think the subtitle of it is Cavaliers win the NBA championship, Indians win the American League championship, Browns win a single football game.
Yeah.
So it turns out it always sells well around November, December as a Christmas gift. So it was more a labor of love than anything. And having moved on from the heart attack, I can find positivity and positive moments in any of those teams. Sitting next to my son in the playoffs, game 3 this year, and they won the game in the bottom of the ninth. I mean, that's a memory we're never ever going to lose.
Yeah.
Just such a great trip up there, and so there's always those kinds of positive moments that can happen.
All right, we're gonna switch it up. So there's a lot to choose from apparently. What are your first 3 of the greatest tragedies in Cleveland sports history in your opinion?
Okay, for me, I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Number 3, this is in my lifetime, was the loss of the World Series to the Florida Marlins in 1997. I was on the phone with my brother. They had a lead in the bottom of the ninth. And we're like, yeah, we live hours away, but we're going to watch the World Series together and they're going to win it. They didn't. They tied in the ninth, lost in the 12th. Number 2, and this is particular to me because I am first and foremost a baseball fan. Okay. Right. Number 2 was the loss to the Cubs in the World Series in 2016. All right. So again, the Cubs had them down and they hit a home run and they tie it up and hey, here we are. We're doing great. And again, they lost in extra innings in game 7 and the World Series. And in all of baseball history, there have been 2 times that a team lost the World Series in the game 7 in extra innings, and you have just heard of both of them. Same team. All right. Number 1 worst, and when you told me you were going to ask me this question, I went from like 15 to 3. Number 1 worst was 1980. The play was called Red Right 88. Brian Sipe had, he had pulled out. They were called the Cardiac Kids. They had won game after game after game in the season in the last 2 minutes. And so they're down against Oakland, the Raiders, and they drove all the way down the field. And I'm like, we're all thinking, hey, this is going to happen. We hadn't been beaten up by our Cleveland sports experience yet. This is going to happen. He's just going to pull it out. And he threw an interception. And it was the first time. He was the MVP that year. So, I say the first is the worst. And as much as I try to be optimistic and as much as I love my Cleveland sports fans, there's always that voice in the back of your head after being beaten up. That voice wasn't there in Red Right 88. But, we move on.
That's right. So let's move on to the 3 greatest. Let's hit the 3 greatest then.
So number 3 has to be the Cavaliers winning, at least in the top 3. The Cavaliers won the NBA championship in 2016. And it was an unbelievable series. And that last game was so good. And LeBron James chases down a guy from behind you, just like, I don't know how any human could have done that. And then, they hit the 3-pointer, they blocked something. And so ultimately it's like, wow, it took this long in my life. had to go through a heart attack before it happened, right? But ultimately, I got to witness one of my teams win a world championship. But that's only three. Number two was when they made it to the 95 World Series, the Cleveland Indians. Hadn't been since 1954. And during that whole playoff run, in fact, I'm pretty sure that team had not been to the playoffs in my lifetime until then. We had a new baby. He'd been born July 4th, 1995. And so he was a bit colicky, but I would hold him while I was watching the game. And my heart was just like boom, 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 boom. And he was just out. It was just like, oh man, it's like being back in the womb, hearing that heartbeat. And so, we would watch the game together. Obviously, he has no memory of it, but just holding him and experiencing playoff baseball with my team for the first time was amazing. They didn't win the series, but just that memory with my son. And then you already heard number one, taking my youngest up to Cleveland, watching the game. They won in the bottom of the ninth, and the guy who won it for him, and you got to be a deeper baseball fan to know about this, maybe. His walk-up song is the theme to SpongeBob SquarePants. Oscar Gonzalez. And that's been, and most of the people like have the heavy rock, the rap, something country, something to really get him fired up. He goes up and plays, and they play SpongeBob as he's going to the plate. And they asked him why. He said, because this game is fun. Kids like it. I'm going to put a song on that's fun, right? So here's this 23-year-old kid, and every time he gets up that night, are you ready, kids? And we're yelling, hi, Captain. Right. And my wife sent my son with instructions. She said, don't let your dad lose his voice. This is I think Saturday night. Don't let him lose his voice, because on Tuesday I had to be in Boston and give a keynote. So I'm trying to be good, but then he hit in the bottom of the ninth. They're down by one. He hits a 2-run single. And so what does the entire stadium do? At the top of our lungs, 30-some thousand people are singing the SpongeBob SquarePants theme song. And the memory is amazing. Right there with my son, giving hugs, singing SpongeBob. My voice was not in top shape for the Boston keynote, but, and if you know Boston Red Sox fans, they hate the New York Yankees. I said, you'll have to forgive me. I lost my voice rooting against the New York Yankees. I got applause for that. Yeah. So, man, but that's the number one memory. It's just, and it combines, right? The great things, the positivity. Sitting there with my son watching that game was just an incredible memory.
That's because the great thing about sports. It's a shared experience, right? That's what makes it so cool. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, making memories.
Series, but that's okay. We had that moment.
So you talk about your voice is your moneymaker. So that's kind of, you're out there like I can't go out and get hurt. So I teach fitness stuff. So I can't be getting hurt. You're the moneymaker. Tell people more about what you do, like sharing keynotes around the country.
So I have 2 basic keynotes, and you've kind of touched on the subject for both of them. The 2 biggest keynotes. I will tailor keynotes to other things. I did in September. I did one on innovation that worked out real well. But it all roots back to goal achievement. That whole finding that big, bold, brilliant idea that you can't wait to get and chasing it until you get it. So that's the one. It's called Fry Your Chickens. Okay, because so many times we got these chickens inside of us, like, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that. The odds of, when I started auditioning for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the odds of getting through on the phone and getting one of the spots were a little more than 1 in 20,000.
Wow.
Right? And so the chickens inside of you are like, what makes you so great that you'll be one of the 20,000? So it's how to overcome that, frying your chickens. The other one is the S's of stress management. And what I've learned since 2015, and honestly, Joe, I think the 2 of them fit together, right? Sure. You got to manage the stress, you got to calm the chickens, and then you can start achieving the life that you deserve. We live in a country where there's countless opportunities, and just don't hold yourself back from being whatever you want to be. We've got that ability, and so go for it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Can't you feel this guy's awesome energy? Don't you want him to come speak to your group? maybe your business, something like that. Check him out, philbarth.com. I'll link all his information in show notes. He's going to link us those S's. He's going to send us those. I'll link the books, all that stuff. You want to get at least one book from this guy, right? You want to at least
Leave.
maybe start there, right? So, hey, Phil, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. I knew we were going to have fun today. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Well, hey, keep up the good work. Keep spreading positivity and dad jokes and sports memorabilia to everyone. It's looking up. So maybe Cleveland will do something here in the next few years.
I hope so. You keep doing what you're doing. The world needs much more positivity. So thank you.
We'll do that. Hey, everybody, y'all go out. Hey, share this message with somebody. There's somebody out there that needs to hear this message. Maybe they need to fry some chickens. Maybe they're wanting to go on a game show. Maybe they need to buy a book. Whatever it is, share this with them. We'll keep these wisdom of the man, Phil himself, going out, and we're going to spread dad jokes, and you help us out. Phil, thanks for coming on again, man. I'd love to keep up with you and see how I can help you out. And everybody else, share this message, and we'll see you next week.